Welcome to Tell Your Story Alaska. Real Alaskans, real stories. I'm your host, Billy Turnland, and here is your story. All right, welcome back to another episode of Tell Your Story Alaska. Today I have my very good friend Tony and his son Hunter with me, and they have a real Alaskan story to tell. So what I'd like to do is start out, Tony, by asking, how on earth, where are you from, and how did you end up in Alaska? Why did you come here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Billy, for having us on here. We many years ago, 7-8 years ago, we started talking about Alaska at home in Pennsylvania, and we prayed about it for 2 years, and we came to the conclusion that the Lord was going to take care of us regardless of where we were, but we felt like He wanted us to come up. So we got up here, working for some schools, past 5 years, kind of bouncing around the state. Lots of different things happened in those 5 years.
Now you have like a license to teach, or how does that work?
So no, I have a private school license. So through the Association of Church Schools International, I have a elementary education certification, but not for the public schools. So we taught at some Christian schools our first 3 years up. And then we moved over to the public sector, where I taught at a public school in a village, and at a prison. I was a teacher there as well.
So before we go on, what were some of those schools, and where were they in Alaska?
Sure, yeah. The first school was Whistle Lake Christian School. So we actually made a decision to come to Alaska before we had a job, knowing that the Lord was going to provide. But He kept me in the vocation that He had been training me up in. So it was nice to be back at a Christian school in Wasilla Lake, but that closed, and then we moved to Kodiak, Alaska. Taught at the Christian school there for 2 years, and then we went up to Fort Yukon, and I was a special education teacher there. So I got to work with all the kiddos K through 12, and then we worked at the prison in Seward, Alaska.
Mm-hmm. And I just remember you telling me about the Fort Yukon, the 50 below, walks to the school that you had to do.
Oh yeah, so yeah, we didn't that was another one. We didn't know where we were going to live. We didn't know if I was going to get paid. I didn't have a contract in my hand for anything. We just got to Fairbanks to the airplane, and we were trusting that the Lord had it all worked out, because we felt like it was an opportunity that the Lord had opened for us. So we did end up having a house with heat and insulation and all that, and we did end up getting paid, so it kind of worked out that way. But
and just for context, you have a wife and 6 kids.
Yes.
And 2 dogs.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, we have a big crew that depends on a lot of things to happen. So the Lord has really. I mean, there's been some times where we've just kind of. Lord has to do something here, because at this point I can't do something. I can't do anything, and even if I tried, it wouldn't really amount to too much. So, and that seems what the recurring theme the past 5 years of being in Alaska has been. Really, it's been like, don't worry, I got it. It's like, I have your back. So you just kind of walk in faith. Tell the stories. Love people, and I'll make sure that you're okay. And that looks different for some people and their stories, but ours is it looks different for ours than it does like Billy and Erica's, right? So
yeah.
So
you've had just situation after situation in your 5 years where you're like, I have no idea how this is going to work out. Like, that's kind of the theme. Yes. And God has to step in, yep. Or we're at the end.
Yes, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, just so yeah. Even us just coming back, from a vacation in Pennsylvania, there was a situation where I have no idea what's going to happen here, and but yes, that is recurring. We get to these positions where it's like, Lord, I don't know what to do, whether that's vocationally or in the moment. I mean, Lord, what's going to happen? And he does things. He sends people. He allows things to happen when they shouldn't happen. Like going back to the Fort Yukon job, I had to get special permission. I mean, the state had to have special, laws to allow me to go into the village in the first place. And so he makes ways when there is no way. I think we could say.
Yeah. So you felt this strong calling to come to Alaska 5 or so years ago, and when you came, there's just been you've been going from place to place. The Lord's always provided along the way, but you also haven't landed anywhere.
Right, and that's the thing for me and my wife, but definitely myself and my thinking. It's just I get to these places why, and what, right? Okay, why are we back to this point where I'm not sure what direction we're going, and what is that direction, Lord? What do you have for us? And that's kind of when things start to happen, and he starts to lay out something, and I can usually tell when the Lord has a path opening for us, because I toil and I work hard and I try to do things on my own, and it seems as though he has the plan, and it's in that direction that I try to start to walk when he reveals it, as we go.
Yeah. So most recently, you were working this job in Seward. Mm-hmm. And then you left that job and you made a decision to go to Pennsylvania for a time, mm-hmm. and then come back here. Yes. So that's the story we're going to focus on. And so tell us why you went to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so I was finishing my master's degree, and we didn't have anything set up after that work-wise. And in the meantime, my wife had looked into maybe working in Kodiak, and she was calling up old references, and one of her references, which was a principal of ours at a school back in Pennsylvania that we both taught for, called back and said, they were talking, and at the end of the conversation, she offered Steph my wife a job, for a long-term sub, and it was kind of like, well, come and visit family and work and hang out with us while you're here too, and part of that, and then Tony can come and be a part of some things at the school as well. And we were like, that's awesome. We both had goosebumps, and we prayed about it, and we were just we were excited about it. So, and we had also wanted to come and visit family later on in the year, so that's why we came. But we did feel like it was something the Lord had opened up.
So you had some time in Pennsylvania, and you had to make a decision, should we stay here or should we go back to Alaska? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we were back with family. We were our physical family and our church, folks we knew from church, and our school fellowship was great with those folks, and it was very familiar and very comfortable, and very easy. And we did get to the point where we were like, okay, we need to make a decision on, are we going back? And we know we have challenges back when we go back. So we kind of prayed about it and just said, hey, Lord, if this is where you want us, give us the confidence to make a decision that way. And we both realized that Alaska is home. We have wonderful family in so many different areas back in Pennsylvania that love us and support us and pray for us. But Alaska is where we're supposed to be.
It just seems like almost like an irrational decision, because in Pennsylvania you had employment, you had family nearby, warmer weather, and I mean, as we speak, I think it's 3 degrees outside. But yet you chose to come back to Alaska, even though you didn't have a grand plan to go to.
Right. Yeah. So I think the grand plan is just to wait on the Lord, and we do have, we have our cabin here, and it's tough. That's part of the challenges, especially more so in the winter.
Why is it challenging at your cabin?
So we don't have electricity or running water there. So and so heat is wood and or propane, and so in all that there's a lot of labor involved to really survive. I'm up every 2 hours, putting wood on the fire, making sure that's going. If I sleep 3 hours, well, then it's a little cold, but but I wake up, and but either way, I think it's I step outside and I just realize that this is the place that the Lord has given me. We got that place 5 years ago, not too long after we got here, and we prayed that the Lord would use it, and He has. Not just for not just for our family, but for many people have come through that place. So I do feel.
I do remember meeting one of those.
Yes,
it was a young guy who had a really troubled past, and I remember having lunch with him once, and he was so grateful to stay in that cabin while you weren't there, and you blessed him. You didn't charge him rent. You were gracious. And yeah, I remember trying to help find him a job, and he just sort of disappeared into the nethers. I don't know what happened to him.
We've kind of lost communication with him as well. But thank you for your faithfulness in that. Appreciate you going out there for the Lord. To pray with this guy or talk to him and just to help him out. I think that's what we can all do is just walk it out, and then whatever happens kind of happens, but that's so being back at the cabin, it's tough a little bit. My son will probably say it's a little tough, but I believe that the Lord has blessed us with it.
All right, so tell us about the your trip back, and this is kind of what we talked earlier today about what story you wanted to tell, because you have a lot of them. And the one you wanted to do was your trip back here. I mean, recently, as 3 or 4 days ago?
Last Saturday. So about 6 days ago now. 6 days ago.
Okay, so tell us from getting on the airplane, coming here, and
Sure.
Let's start there.
Yeah. So the travel plans coming back were actually very effortless. We found good deals on tickets, even and. For traveling with 6 kids and 2 dogs, essentially, to get to the airport from where we were staying, it took 2 vehicles, and it all went as well as it could have. Actually, I mean, we got there, we got the dogs checked in, all our stuff. Kids were with us. The kids at this point were a little bit sick. They weren't. We had rougher days prior to the plane ride on Friday, but it went as well as it could have. And then we have about 10 hours of flying with a layover in there. And, for as uncomfortable as it was, the kids did great. It was pretty stressless. And then when we got to the airport, still okay. We were hoping that the car would start. We had our car.
When you got to Anchorage.
Yeah, when we got to Anchorage, we were hoping our vehicle
Had your car been parked there the whole time?
It had been parked there in long-term parking for about 2 months, and we knew that it had snowed and it was starting to get cold, and the car is not in the best shape. I was able to fix it up well enough that it drove down to the airport just fine. So that's what I was kind of hoping, that we turned off the car while it was running fine, and it would turn on just fine.
So this was an older Chevy Suburban.
Yeah, 93 Chevy Suburban,
okay.
Which there's a story in that, but not for this time. But
sure.
But the Lord blessed us with that too. But anyway, so me and my son got out there, and we were shoveling out because there was about 2 feet of snow, maybe a little bit more on it, on it and around it.
This seems like a really common Alaskan experience, because I've done this too. Left my car for a month or something, and you get back, and you have to have a shovel.
Yeah.
You're like going through it so you can get to the door, get your shovel that's in the car.
Yeah, right.
It seems like if you want to be an Alaskan, you have to be up for that.
Right, and I think most Alaskans would remember that they should put a shovel in the car before they go.
Yeah.
So I didn't. I was hoping I did, but then I realized I didn't. So anyway, that made digging out all the more interesting. But well, we put the key in the ignition, and it turned over. It started. I was like, all right, great, and it didn't really want to start, but it started. But anyways, so quickly found out though that it wasn't accelerating at like past 40 miles an hour, and it's like, oh man, that's not good. It's gonna be a long ride home if it makes it home. And anyways, and so at this point too, my oldest daughter had a fever, and she was just like such a trooper. And anyway, so we go pick everybody up. Everybody gets in the Suburban, and we had to make a decision if we were going to try that night to get home or what we were going to do. And so anyway, we actually stayed at a hotel Friday night, and because especially with the fever, and I knew it was going to be challenging getting back to the cabin. We stayed one more night.
What were some of her symptoms?
She had a high fever. I don't know that we took it, but she was lethargic. She didn't really want to eat or drink.
And how old is she?
So she's 10. Yeah,
she's 10. Okay.
She's 10. So, but yeah. So she was pretty rough. Yeah. So we stayed, and we were able to then get some watermelon and some medicine and just water for her, and she kind of by the next morning she was doing better, but still not entirely better. But we were looking for cars to buy right away. Too, because if we could buy a car that worked in Anchorage, it would have been easier to get home.
Oh, yeah. Now, I remember you told me about this hotel you stayed at. It said it was all-inclusive breakfast.
Yeah. 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 So it was, there was granola bars and oatmeal. And,
oatmeal packets.
Yeah, oatmeal packets, yeah. No spoons, and there's coffee, but no coffee cups, kind of a place, yeah.
Yeah, so, real winner of a place there.
Yeah, right, yeah. So it was... yeah. but yeah, so anyway, so we did make a decision. We prayed, and we were like, all right, well, we're gonna go for it. We got to get home. And so there we are, 40 miles an hour on a snow-packed highway, while everybody's kind of whizzing by us. Is kind of nerve-wracking. And anyway, we were going and going and going, and the way the engine was just working so hard, it was the gas consumption was increased. So I said, well, let's pull over. This is about maybe an hour into driving, and I said we need to pull over, get some gas, and pulled over, got gas, and I pulled up into a parking spot after pumping. Steph and the kids got out, and while I was waiting for them to come back, the car just decided to turn off. That was it. However, it probably, our thoughts on it were that it could not have happened in a better spot, because we had been on the highway, and it was just if it would have just stopped working on the highway, it would have been so dangerous for us. Even if we stayed in the car, it would have been so dangerous.
Especially with your 10-year-old has a high fever and lethargic and all of those things.
Right.
On the side of the road. Would be terrible.
And all the while too, our youngest daughter then is also starting to display the same symptoms that she had we thought beat the fever and the lethargy, and things weren't looking too good.
Well, and also for some context, I know because I was, here in the Matsu Valley area, we live in the Big Lake area, and there's a snowstorm the past week or so that's the largest series of storms in the last 25 years or something. Right outside, there's nearly 4 feet of snow on my lawn that came in the last week. And my snowplow's gotten a workout. But that's the context in which you were trying to drive home was in the middle of this.
Right, and up against another snowstorm that we were supposed to be getting, 2 days later, I think they were calling for it. And so it was really imperative that we got home, got the cabin warm, and just got set up there for whatever, maybe having to stay, getting snowed in, who knows. So it was really important that we got home. So there we are. Then we're kind of stranded. We had no resources for there's no car rental places around. There's no we start calling taxi companies, and they're every one of them at first said they weren't available to help us out. They were so busy. So we're just no idea. I think at that point we prayed, Lord, we need some help. So
another one of those.
There we are. We're sitting at a gas station. So Peters Creek, there's not too much before. If you're in it's like 20 minutes, half an hour by normal working car back to Anchorage, 20, 30 minutes in the other direction in a normal working vehicle to Wasilla. and it really, and there's nothing a lot in Peters Creek. There's a gas station and maybe a restaurant. And so, so things are looking not good. We called AAA, and their tow guys out, an hour and a half. Not too sure what we were going to do there. Like I said, I tried calling taxi. A taxi company did call back and said, I do have a driver coming back from Anchorage, and she's about 10 to 15 minutes away. So we decided that we were going to split the family up, which was we don't really like to do that, but at least I could get all the girls, Steph and my 3 daughters somewhere warm. So that was the thought there. And then and then we did think about calling Billy and Erica, because they had actually, when our travels first started, just said like, hey, call us up if you need a warm place to stay while you get the cabin ready, or whatever you need, pretty much. I mean, how good of friends, to offer such things. So it was finally like, okay, and we don't like to put people, I don't like to put people out, but we were in a spot. And feeling like Billy and Eric are friends that the Lord has blessed us with, it was kind of acceptable to be like, hey.
Well, and I remember this because, your wife, when she did end up calling me, she said, my husband doesn't like to put people out. Yeah. And I remember, I thought it was interesting because my wife and I had a conversation how when it comes to friends, like you if it's a good friend, you want to be put out for the sake of your friend. Like it's actually you receive joy and delight in doing something for your friend. Like you want to be put out, and we none of us want to put anyone out, but friends want to do that for each other, and it actually is a blessing, to be put out.
Right. I think I think only a friend could say such a thing.
yeah, I guess so.
So anyway, so we did call Billy and we asked them to meet us at the girls at Walmart, so that they were on their way there. In the meantime, I had gone into the gas station to ask if there was any places to stay in Peters Creek, just in case that was the thing we were going to have to do. Actually, there's a couple minutes before the taxi situation and calling Billy, but while I was in the gas station, the lady at the register was kind of busy, so I asked the gentleman in front of me, like, hey, is there places to stay? And he just kind of looked at me. He's like, nah, maybe some Airbnbs or something. And I said, oh all right, and
so nothing there. It seemed like
yeah. So anyways, I go back outside, and a moment or two later, he pulls up in his truck, and he's just kind of looking at the situation. Look, and I got the kids are in the car, and he's like, oh, so you okay? You need some help? I said, well, we're broke down here, and I don't really have any means to get around. And he's like, oh man, I'm going to work. He's like, if do you need a ride out towards Anchorage or something, because that's where I'm going. And I said, well, no, and but thank you anyways. But we definitely appreciate some prayers. And he said, yeah, okay, and that was it. And he's like, he went off to work, and in the meantime, taxi showed up, and we called Billy. And 5 minutes later, the gentleman pulls back up, and he's like, listen, he's like, I live 5 minutes away. I have an extra vehicle for you to borrow, and if you want to. And I said, well, yeah, I'd love to borrow it.
So this guy's a total stranger. You don't know him from Adam, and
nope.
He just said, you can take my car.
Yeah, I and it's interesting too, you can kind of get a sense of people, I guess, when you're around them, and I was not worried about this guy at all. And I know talking to him later, actually on the way up to his house then to get the car, he said, I wasn't sure what to think of you at first. He said, but then, I saw you with a bunch of kids. So anyway.
A man with 6 kids may not be a threat.
Right, yeah.
Or a robber.
Right,
a theft, yeah.
Right. So I think I would have liked to know what the guy was thinking on his way to work. At what point he made the decision is really what intrigues me. How his heart felt, in the moment he's like, I need to turn back around to help these folks. Because I can only think about it in the ways that the Lord convicted the man to turn around.
Yeah.
I knowing how the Lord has worked on my heart before in situations where, I have done things I shouldn't have done for the better of somebody else. That has to have what happened in that man's.
So you weren't sure if this man was like a believer, a follower of Jesus,
no,
or if he was just a good guy.
Yeah, I did not know. I had no idea. At all. So
or a creepo doing up to something.
He could have been. Yeah, he could have been leading me and my boys off to somewhere. I don't know. Who knows? It's Alaska, I guess. But no, he took us to a very nice car and let us borrow it. Yeah. So and then we were able to get back up to the valley. I met the family at Walmart. And Billy, and we were able to buy some groceries for the cabin, which was the plan, to stock up before getting back to the cabin. And anyways, so we ended up going back to Billy and Erica's to get warmed up a little bit and have a little bite to eat. And the plan was then from there for me to go and try to shovel out a spot because there was 2 to 3 feet of snow at least on the ground, and to also get it warmed up was the next step. All the while the kids and Steph were going to be nice, warm, and safe with good company, and so that was satisfying to know that we had some good godly friends to be with.
Right. So your family was at my house.
Yes.
Warm and cozy, and then you went over to your dry cabin.
Yep.
To assess the situation, and what happened when you got there?
Yeah, so I think that night it was like negative single digits, so it was kind of cold.
Yeah,
it was pretty cold when I got there. But immediately upon arriving, I had one neighbor come over to me and just start talking to me about things being taken and how it was an interesting conversation, to say the least. And I just got home, but I said, well, we'll take care of these things later. And I started shoveling out a little bit, knowing that there might be a possibility that someone had broken into the place or stayed there or whatever. I didn't know the situation yet. So did a little shoveling, and then I went in to go warm the place up, because it takes a while to warm up a cold cabin that doesn't really have it's made of 4x4s, so it doesn't have insulation. So it takes a little bit to warm it up.
Yeah, it's kind of a common Alaskan thing is that, it's not just like the furnace coming out or the heat coming on, like the walls, the couch, the cabinets, everything in the house needs to get warmed up.
Right.
And then, once it's warm, it gets easier to keep it that way. But
that's right. Yeah. It's much easier once it's warm just to keep it. Yeah. Yeah. Then the labor's kind of over once you get it up to temp, and then you just throw a couple logs on once in a while and you're okay.
Right.
Yeah. But lo and behold, I got to the back door that I didn't have secured besides just locking the door, and that was open, and the window was also open. So it looked like, somebody had, moved our freezer, got into the window and let themselves out the back door, went in, and so some things were taken, that pretty much things that we needed for heating, and somebody would have needed to stay warm. So it's kind of a big bummer,
But also you thought the guy just probably needed to stay warm.
That's really what it was. I mean, the guy, it was talking to the neighbor. It was about the wood that he took, and the items were propane and heaters and boots.
You've had a bit of a history with these neighbors, like
yes,
they're challenging in some ways.
So so in this past summer we came back to the cabin, and the whole cabin, the whole summer was me working on the cabin, and then talking and praying with guys walking back and forth past my driveway. So I made it kind of a policy to, when strangers are, so most people don't walk on the road to go anywhere where I live, because we're kind of far, well, not super far out, but far enough out that most people don't walk anywhere. So I was making it a policy to go out and talk to them and see if they needed help with things, I was able to pray with a couple guys frequently, hearing their backstories a little bit and the problems that they struggled with, and I felt like it was the Lord brought me back to the cabin, and this was the part of our intentional living at the cabin. It was supporting these guys and encouragement and prayer. But,
I do kind of like that because, if people who want to go into quote unquote ministry, they feel so inclined to have their grand ministry strategy. And there's nothing inherently wrong with a ministry strategy, but, imagine just loving your neighbors, praying with them. Tonight my wife wants to bring cookies to our neighbors. It's not enveloped in this grand thought out strategy. It's simply living in community.
Right.
And finding those conversations where the gospel fits into an individual's life. It just seems like in the life of Jesus, he just walked around for like 3.5 years. He didn't seem to have, a ministry strategy as we know it today. He walked around and interacted with people as he went.
Right. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and, Jesus said the second greatest commandment is to love our neighbor as ourselves. So, I think, when I'm talking literally about my neighbor next door, that's what we were trying to do, and so there's, I guess with now, and then the plot thickens a little bit with different people that we were, not we were talking to and praying with were involved, I guess, but so I think at this point, it's kind of like, I don't know if I should be feeling hurt or if I should be feeling like this is all part of the process that the Lord has involved in the relationship, you know what I mean? Because that's really
you've been a really good neighbor to them, and then it seems like they were using your house while you were gone. Yeah. And it's like, how should I feel about this?
Yeah, right, yeah. And you love people, irregardless of what they look like or what they've done, because the Lord loves them, right? So why shouldn't I love them? So that's so I'm trying to make sure I distinguish, between God's grace and my own. And, obviously God's grace is infinite and it's so much. It's not mine. I'm not God. So I'm trying to, but I am trying to just be in the mind of Christ in my praying about this too, and just So that's where we're at. Do I continue in pouring out in a relationship with these people, or at what point? I guess my thought is at what point do they become my enemy?
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of talk about enemies.
Yes.
So how? And I know Jesus also said to love my enemies, and I think I'm still there. I just want to, and I'm just going to God. Is this right though? Is this how I should be responding?
Yeah. So I could definitely see the tension there.
Yeah. So anyway, so that did present some challenges getting back in, so needless to say, that evening, and then I tried to start the fire, and that was not happening. I was just getting tons of smoke coming out. So I didn't know if I wasn't getting a draft up the pipe somehow. I didn't know what was going on. The cabin's full of smoke. Things are missing that my backup plan, right? The propane tanks are my backup. That's plan B for heat. They're gone. So there's just at that point, I can't work on the pipe because it's -8 and it's nighttime. It's just nothing's lining up for me to fix it right there, right? So I think, I don't know if I called Billy or what, but I said, hey, I think at that point, they had offered earlier in the night if we needed to stay the night, that we could. And it's like the last option for me, but I felt like they were sincere enough in their offer out of love that it was okay to accept.
Well, you weren't my enemy, so.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah. So, I think I called or texted or said, hey, if that's okay, we'll stay the night. And graciously, they're like, yeah, So we were very thankful for that. We were able to catch up on rest. But before we went to bed, though, so our little one, Aurora, she popped a fever on the thermometer at 106, and it's like,
how old is Aurora?
Aurora is just over 1. She's when was her birthday? October. So so 15-month-old, 106. She's been sick. She had RSV diagnosed in Pennsylvania. She just finished her antibiotic treatment, and it's just like
RSV is just going everywhere right now.
Right. Yeah, it's not good for little ones at all.
Yeah, it's really bad for little ones.
Right.
Yeah.
So just on top of the day. I mean, this is the same day, right? All these things are the same day.
Yeah, you flew from Pennsylvania to Alaska.
Yeah.
The whole thing at the gas station. Got a car. Got into your cabin.
Yeah.
There's another element we haven't even talked about. You bought a truck.
Yeah, right. We had Billy. Billy came with me to get the truck. So we did buy a new truck, which was probably like before the story we're about to tell. That was like the one positive thing of the evening. We got back into a working vehicle.
You're right.
And I had in my mind throughout the day, like, I need a working vehicle so I can do all the things I need to do. So that happened. And
we just went on Facebook Marketplace, saw this thing, and went over, and we just bought it right then.
We took it for a little spin. Billy was with me, and I figured if something was seriously wrong that I couldn't understand, maybe Billy would see it or hear it. Maybe right. So, but it seemed to be good, and we're still running, so that's a good thing. So, but we got back to the house, and that's when we found Aurora not doing well, and took the temperature 106. We did give a dose of Tylenol, but then we prayed, and actually, Billy prayed for her, and just so always thankful for anybody who prays for my family, for us, and I don't know, within an hour, not even, she was like back. Her personality started coming back. She was getting up and walking around, almost playing a little bit. And we took her temperature again. It was like 98. Okay, so we've done Tylenol and even Motrin cycles when she was really sick in Pennsylvania, and it would bring it down 2 degrees. Right. Here we're going 8 degrees, like a broken fever.
With probably less than an hour. It just was
less than an hour.
Well, we don't even know. We just checked after.
Right.
Maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah,
because we were just busy getting dinner and. They're like, we should check her again because she really seemed to be reviving. She was starting to play with toys and stuff.
Yeah, I think you even said, like, she looks so much better.
She does.
And so, I have no, I was saying before we started recording, this week we came to, the power, or the prayers of a righteous person are powerful and effective. And I think this was just a clear example of that for, so very thankful for that. But anyway, so then we stayed the night. We got rest in a warm place. The dogs were even allowed to stay. So that
we locked the dogs in the laundry room.
Yeah. So, but then so then the next day though, it was an earlier start for our day. It was Sunday, I think. Billy's family went to church. We wanted to get the gentleman's car back. His name was Jonathan. We wanted to get his car back to him. And get into the cabin as soon as you can. So with the daylight is shorter. You have a shorter time of daylight in the wintertime in Alaska, and you always want to make sure you use it wisely. And for us to do our work in the light at the cabin is so important because we don't have lights. So
right. Okay, I had to stop the mic because the microphone was. Making a lot of crazy sounds. Maybe I need a new mic. But it looks like it's good now. So we were talking about how the light is really, really limited this time of year. It's December. There's only, I think 4.5 hours of daylight. And even when there is light, it's like just barely above the horizon. It's like a sunset all day long. And how essential it is to use that brief time to work on your cabin.
Right. Yeah. That was the next day after staying at Billy and Erica's, and we were able to get in, just get cleaned up and kind of settled, And that first night it was very comfortable in the cabin. It just took us getting in there, and me and my wife figured out our stovepipe problem. It looked like some snow and ice had jammed it up. So I just had to, remove it, sweep it out. But that also, I was also on the roof, with snow and ice, and it was kind of never fun. But
like you could fall and break your leg, kind of danger.
Oh, easily could have, yeah, or get impaled on my Sandpoint well or something. That was, anyway, yeah. So that was okay. That was good, and we had, I really felt like Billy and Erica kind of were like our safety net. They offered if we needed anything just to come back over and stuff. But it's been good. We've been there. Really no problems since.
And you mentioned just before we started recording that Aurora's fever came back again.
So I don't know, a few nights later, after being in the cabin, it did return, and we were kind of like, what is going on? It's not good to be sick in the cabin. So my oldest daughter had kind of come back. She was on the mend. She was doing okay. Everybody seemed to be cough free for the most part. But here's our little 15-month-old again, not feeling well, and Hunter, my oldest son, just kind of stepped up and he's like, let's just pray for her, Dad. And,
well, Hunter's here. How about
you want to
tell us about that?
Okay.
Here, you sit down next to the hot stove.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
So Hunter's 13. He has his own podcast. What's yours called?
Wiffle Below Zero.
Wiffle Below Zero. It's all about wiffle ball. Mm-hmm. And you recently got to meet some wiffle ball star players.
Yeah, some professional wiffle ball players. That was really nice to do.
Okay.
It really kind of helped grow my understanding of the game itself, and just got some guys on the podcast.
Cool.
Just overall, a really nice time in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So
tell us about, you saw your sister was sick, and then what did you do?
So in the moment, my mindset was like, not again. We were already battling with my little siblings being sick in the past. So I'm like, what do you do in a situation where you can't do anything, where it's out of your hands?
This is a theme with your family, yes.
Yes. Yeah. What do you do? First thing, most of the time this is not the case. And I wish I couldn't say that, because sometimes I try to take matters into my own hands when all you can do is pray.
Yeah.
And that's the most powerful thing you can do. And but I just prayed there, and
So Kaylin came over, laid her hands
Yeah.
on the baby. Mommy was holding her. We all kind of came around, you and the baby praying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you all kind of gathered around
Yes.
Aurora.
Yeah, so we're all there, and I just pray, and I was saying, nothing of this world, no medicine, not us, no doctor, not anything could really help Aurora.
Uh-huh.
The only thing that could help the baby was God.
Yeah.
So who better to pray to?
Uh-huh.
I mean, who better to talk to?
And what did do you remember what your prayer sounded like?
Kind of,
What did you say?
I was like, God, we've had some challenges recently. That it's the work of the devil. Like he doesn't want us to be here in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good that he doesn't want us to do this, because that's what you want for us. So nothing in this world can help Aurora, and no people, not us, no doctor, no medicine, not anything can help her, just you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it.
It was like the prayer that Billy prayed, dismissing evil.
Uh-huh.
that was kind of the the same direction Hunter was going with his prayer, and again, and then then you tell Hunter then what happened.
And what was it? Not even an hour later, maybe
almost a similar.
almost the same exact time. She felt perfectly better,
She
and
just kind of perked right up.
Yep, and she's still fine to this day.
Yeah.
So.
Well, hey guys, thank you so much for coming and telling your story. I know you have like a million other stories.
Yeah.
You have Fort Yukon, you have Kodiak, and you have Seward, and you have stories that are coming. Right now you have a possible job lined up in Chugiak, and you're looking into that. But largely, it's kind of like, what's next?
Right.
And so it's like stepping into the uncertain future.
Right.
And so much of like the following the Lord is taking that massive risk of stepping into a massive unknown. And that's where you guys are now. So kudos to you guys, and thank you guys for coming. And thank you all for listening. And come back again for the next Tell Your Story Alaska. If you have a story that you want told, or you just want to reach out to me for any reason, please contact me at tysalaska@gmail.com. tysalaska@gmail.com. I look forward to hearing from you.